I want to invite our second speaker, and time has gone, I don't know, but I know we'll manage. I want to invite our brother Joseph Nginya wa Keiro to come and take us through Manhood Redefined. And I believe this session will be a very engaging one, and we'll be blessed with by his presentation. Let us give a round of applause even as he comes to do the presentation. Karibu Joseph.
God is good, and all the time. So before I even say anything, I would want you to pair up with someone. Just ensure there's a brother next to you. Just ensure you are two. And then I want you to ask this friend this very simple question. Ask them, why do you behave the way you do? Like, why do you talk the way you talk? You know, yes. So make sure you get an answer from this brother of yours. If he is new to you, for example, if you do not fellowship in the same church, before you ask him this question, get to know who he is. What's your name? Possibly what do you do? And how does it feel to be here today? But the million-dollar question is, why do you behave the way you do? So let me give you pointers of the questions you're going to ask. Why does he talk the way he talks? If he looks like he's a married person, why does he engage with the spouse the way he does? Why do you talk to your wife the way you do? You know, why do you relate with your children the way you do? As a man, I just want you to be able to answer that. Na wewe ndugu yangu, ambia mwenzako ukiulizwa swali tafadhali jibu. So you have a minute to engage. 1 minute, and I'm timing. Go ahead. I'm going to sample some of the answers in the course of this conversation. Why do you behave the way you do?
Tutakuwa na siku.
my primary caregivers did influence into the person I am.
True.
Going to school also has
Yeah.
sort of
Exposed you.
exposed me significantly.
Yeah.
And also, I am not easily influenced by what people do or say, but I know for some people it does, but for me, I think the socialization has sort of grounded the person I am.
On that note, we are together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Edward,
Joseph,
serving at St. James.
awesome. It's a pleasure. Yes. Please allow me to sample just a few of the things that have been said. I want to believe this microphone is working. So if I ask you to tell us, you will tell us what the gentleman next to you told you. And we're going to start here. What did your brother tell you? Why does he behave the way he does? What did you hear him say?
He told me that he behaves the way he behaves because of the Christian life, which has really changed him to be what he is today.
Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Let's appreciate him once. What did he tell you?
But my friend here behaves the way he behaves because of the way he was brought up by his dad. He was tough, very harsh, and very strict. So he behaves the same way.
Okay. Did you hear that? He behaves the way he behaves because of the way he was raised by the father. And he goes on to be specific and say, the father was very tough and strict. So does he behave the same way? Is he tough and strict? Let me look at him. Doesn't look very tough, but we will engage. What did you hear your brother say?
I've just come with you. You shared with
Oh, okay. What did your brother there say?
He said that his behavior and the way he talks is all by his background and upbringing. He draws everything from the way he was brought up.
Yeah.
Yes. So from his upbringing, he picked up his aspirations in life. So he behaves in the way he was brought up to achieve his aspirations in life.
Okay. Fantastic. Very good answers. Yes, sir. Who did you talk to and what did they say?
I'm Wycliffe.
Yes,
He
Wycliffe.
told me his name is Samuel Kiduku.
Uh-huh.
He goes
The
to
gentleman next to you.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
he goes to Kiambio SEK,
Yes.
and he talks a lot. That's because that's how he was brought up. He was brought up in a church since he was childhood, and he was taught also to work, to get married also,
Yes.
and he has done all those.
And that is what he did.
Yes.
Did I hear you say he talks a lot?
Yeah.
He told you that?
Yes.
Okay, Sasa. We will test that in the course of this conversation. Thank you for sharing that. Who did you talk to and what did they say?
Hello, my name is Geoffrey. I talked to Brian Uchinga. He told me he talks the way he talks basically because of the way he wants to be in the future. So much of the actions that he does may be based on where he wants to be in future. Maybe in terms of marriage, the way he relates with people is basically anaangalia future. Then he tries to structure his life based on where he wants to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. There's a picture I want us to look at before I react to that. Now, if you can see what is written on the screen, would you kindly read it to your partner, the one who is next to you? Msomee tu. Umemsomea? Let us now read together. Sometimes you need to look at life from a different perspective, and that's exactly why we are here. Then back to your partner. Ask your partner, what do you see? What do you make of this picture? What do you think is going on here? Iyo. Uh-huh. Just study that image carefully and tell me what you think is going on. Misunderstanding? Between two? They don't talk? One seems to be enjoying nature. The other one is miserable. Very good observations. What's going on in that picture? They are minding their own business. Oh, Reverend is saying those are typical men. Kwa hivyo wanaume wa buruburu wanakuanga hivi. Si wa buruburu. Ni wa all over. Ni Reva amesema sio mimi. What's going on? And I want to ask, are there times when masculinity feels and looks like the gentleman on your left? Are there times being a man feels like that? When are those times? COVID time, eh? COVID time. First of all, let me tell you something. As I stand here, and I want to be extremely brief, our country, Kenya, has been ranked as the 4th most depressed country in Africa. And the same country that we live in, which is being governed by our President Ruto and Rigiji, we have been ranked as the 9th most depressed country globally in the world. Na inasemekana ya kwamba wale watu wamelemewa sana is the male population. And that's why for me, this conversation is very, very important. Kuna jamaa anasema hapa hakuna pesa. Money notwithstanding, it is estimated because of that, so many of us are struggling, and the struggle has led to so many of us exiting before our time. And as we speak, as I stand here, and Reverend is seated here, this minute, the statistics are saying that in Kenya today, in every 10 people who die, if 10 people today are women. My brother here has talked about COVID-19 pandemic. During the COVID-19 pandemic, my brother, in every 10 people who succumbed to COVID, 7 were men and only 3 were women. If you are sitting next to a mubabas, mwanaume, mwambie siku zuri, ni kubaya bro. But we are thankful to God that we are here today, because if we are able to redefine our thinking and our perception and the way we deal with these things, then there's a chance that we can leave this place with some new impetus. My name is Joseph. For a while I have been teaching in the university in the faculty of psychology, but because of the state of mental health in this country, I am not able to teach anymore, because what has happened is especially after 3 years ago, after the state of mental health became such a challenge, so many multinational organizations and corporates have sucked us into their space so that we can support them in formulating programs for their staff to help them rise above, because after COVID, it hasn't been the same. So there's a lot of work we are doing to support, especially multinational NGOs or international NGOs like World Health Organization, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, UNHCR, the Danish Refugee Council. This is work that I enjoy doing. It's very important to me because, first of all, I am a man, and some of the struggles that we experience as men, I have personally gone through them, and so we are in this together. So ambia mwenzako. We're in this together. We'll figure this out. We can organize another time and escalate this conversation. But I'm going to highlight the most significant things that I feel that I should share with you. And so we shall come back to this picture at some point. Now, I posed this question to you. Why do you behave the way you do? And I want to sample what some of us have said by picking something. I serve in the Anglican Church, I serve in the Diocese of Mount Kenya South. I am an Anglican. Like you, serving in the Diocese of Mount Kenya South, I go to ACK St. Luke Sigona. By the grace of God, I am serving as a church warden under the Vicar General of the Diocese of Mount Kenya South, Canon John Mutonga. So, this is your brother from the other side, and we're in this together. Michelle Obama, you know her very well, right? One time she said something very profound, and what she said is that one of the lessons that I grew up with was to always stay true to yourself and never let what someone else says distract you from your goals. And she went on to say, and so when I hear about negative and false attacks, I really do not invest any energy in them because I know who I am. That's a very powerful statement, isn't it? Why she was able to rise above and support her husband who was in the White House for 8 years without a single scandal. And you know how difficult it is being the first black president in America, America of the 21st century, and rising above the criticism, which can be sometimes very positive and negative. Why she rose above is because she had a deeper understanding of who she was as a person. And hence, that's why I posed this question. Why do you behave the way you do? And my mission here is just to help you maybe ask yourself these critical questions. Who taught you to be the man you are? And I want you to ask your neighbor. Nauliza hii swali na you know, with a bit of godliness. Ask the person next to you. Muulize, do you have a daughter? Muulize. They don't have to answer. They don't have to answer. They don't have to answer. Lakini muulize, if God ever, usijidharau hata kama you know, Jenga Karume, Jenga Karume was able to sire a son at a certain age. That young man, yes, a few years before he died. And the wife he married is a reverend in our diocese. He's a reverend. And she's a friend of mine. And so uliza mwenzako, if God ever gives you a daughter, kama hauna, if you have one, muulize, do you want your daughter? And please, don't personalize this question. Don't. Ask the person, do you want your daughter to end up with a man like you? Ulize kiwerevo. Just. Ulize kiwe. Na usipige mtu ngumi. It's just a question. Just a question. Would you want your beloved daughter to end up with a man like you? Yes, sir. In terms of, very good question. A very good question from, I like your thinking. This gentleman is asking, in terms of age or character. But I want you to think in terms of the entire package. The entire package. But with a lot of bias into the character. Would you? Jibu tu. Na usiogope kujibu. This is our safe space. This is our safe space. Have you answered? Have you? Have you? Have you answered? Amazing. Amazing. I will talk about 3 things, and then we will proceed for lunch. In between, I will show you some images to just provoke your thinking. Now, A lot of people that we have sampled, including Reverend here, Reverend told me that he believes he behaves the way he does because of his socialization, right? The people who raised him played a very significant role in shaping who he is. And then the second thing he talked about is his Christian walk. Him being born again also has contributed immensely to that. Now, I will talk about you and I as a product of our environment, and two, man as man. And then we can go for lunch. Now, being in the mental health space, one of the things you study is understanding human behavior. And studies world over have confirmed that human beings, you and I, we are products of our socialization. We are products of the people who raised us. We are products of our fathers and our mothers. But the same studies have consistently shown that, and numbers do not lie, unfortunately, that more than 70% of us, we human beings, we grew up in homes that were not very functional. And some books have called those homes dysfunctional homes. In those homes, you will find that most of us grew up with parents who would sometimes tell us the opposite of what they meant. You remember growing up? If you are the firstborn in your family, how many firstborns do we have here? If you are the firstborn in your family, and let's say, thank you for raising your hands, and let's say your father or your mother, mostly your mother, wants to leave your younger siblings under your care so that you can take care of them. She will give you instructions as to how you are supposed to take care of these children. But instead of her telling you nicely, what's your name, my brother? My son, my beloved son Geoffrey. Instead of your mother telling you, my beloved son Geoffrey, nimeenda, nikirudi, nikute umewekelea watoto kwa jiko. Where I come from in central Kenya, what would you be told? Muhagire mwana. You know kuhagira. Kuhagira means kuwekelea kwa jiko. That is your mother who is born again and going to heaven vertically. She's going to the mother's union. The moment she's giving you these instructions, she's actually going for the Wednesday Mothers Union Fellowship. When you're busy washing your mother's cups, and then cups zikigongana, your mother will shout from wherever she is. What will she tell you? Jori, uragasio, the vunja zote. Na ukimaliza kuvunja hizo, ukuja uniue. You know. Come. Hata zenye ziko kwa kabati, utoe uvuje. Mama yenu ni tajiri. Atanunua zingine. Your mother is rich, she's going to buy others. I was telling my children how we would wash our own uniform, isn't it? These days we buy them how many sets of blouses and shirts? 4 or 5, isn't it? Wako na ya kila siku. But our days, what would happen? We would clean our own uniform, right? And sometimes being reminded to wash those uniforms was not a very rosy affair. Ulikuwa unaambiwa aje, Geoffrey, hiyo uniform usioshe, utanivaa kesho ukienda shule. That's your mother reminding you to wash your uniform. Si ndio, Geoffrey? I'm not even talking about your father. We're just talking about your mother. We have not even talked about his strict father and what he did. Your uniform asiosha. When your mother is reminding you to take a shower, what would you be told? Leo hata msioge, Geoffrey, baba yenu akikuja atawalamba mkuwe wasafi. Geoffrey usioge. Don't shower. Geoffrey usioge. I was telling my kids, you know the way, the way I see them every time we are leaving. If they leave before us, they have to hug us and wish us a good day. And we also do the same. How many of us had parents who wished you a good day? My son, my beloved son, have a good day. Especially if you're a man, have a good day. Ulikuwa unaambiwa aje? Geoffrey, upitie barabara katikati, gari itakuwa na ikuondokee. That's your mother's way of having you, telling you have a good day. Yeah. I have a reverend friend of mine, Rev, from Diocese of Mount Kenya South. Actually, he calls himself Jorogewa Shosho because he was raised by the grandmother. Shosho means grandmother, where I come from. So, you know him. Takuja na mvua. They were dead serious. And look at it. Our children these days, we are pulling them out of the house, persuading them to go out play. But us, the most difficult thing was to get us back to the house, isn't it? And I think that was one of the coping mechanisms that really helped us. Because when you play and then when you indulge physically, your body releases what you call endorphins, the feel-good hormones. But there's something else that would happen. Whenever you would play outside, Geoffrey, and then you're hungry and you go to the house and you tell your mother you want to eat food, two things would happen. Either your mother would tell you, oga mikono unikule, or she would try to remind you as you eat food, remember you have other siblings who need to eat. But even that, she will not tell you nicely. Ulikuwa unaambiwa aje? Ukule yote Geoffrey, ni wewe tu uko na tumbo huku tajiri wewe. And you know what? Some of the things that were said were not very good things. A while ago, I was trying to talk to this young lady. She has a master's that she did when she was in Germany. And she came back to Kenya because she was given an internship in an NGO. But she kept on telling me that I have discovered a cycle in my life. I keep on attracting broken boyfriends. And every time I break up with this boyfriend, I will go back to the other one that I left. And one day they went to Tanzania for a vacation. And they had some sort of a fracas that made the boyfriend leave her in a ranch. And she had to figure out her way to go back to the hotel. What I want to say is that some of the things that we were told, some of the things that were said, they caused some bit of trauma. What trauma is trauma is a psychological wound. So this girl was telling me, when she was growing up, the mother would pull her hair. When the mother was trying to discipline her, the mother would pull her hair, spit on her, and then call her kinyangarika. When you have a mother who makes you feel like you're not good enough, when you have a mother who tells you that you're not good enough, you grow up feeling and thinking you're not good enough. And when the time comes for you to look for a partner to settle down with, you look for someone like you. They say, you attract who you are. Ambia mwenzako, you attract who you are. So if you're broken, what happens? You attract broken. And I was trying to make her understand that you're here blaming these people, but you also need to ask yourself, what is it about me that is making me settle for such broken people? It's because I'm also broken. What is my role? What is my contribution? Because you're broken. And I'm sorry to say this. For most of us, especially women, the first bullies we ever experienced, and I'm saying this without fear of contradiction, the first bullies we experienced were our parents. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect. But I also want you to understand that they were also raised by people who were maybe more broken than they were. So when you're broken and you don't heal, what happens? You break others. The cycle continues. Uliza mwenzako, mubaba mwenzako, brother, what were you told? Uliambiwa nini? Liambiwa nini? I remember one day I was talking to this gentleman. This gentleman grew up with a father who would tear him down. And because of that, he became too anxious and worried that even the faculties in his body could not coordinate. And he started bedwetting when he was in class 3. And every time he would hear the father speak, he would get anxious. Every time he would go to bed, he could not help it but bedwet. Who wants to bedwet? Who wants to bedwet? Would you ever want to bedwet? But do you know the father made it look like he actually is doing this intentionally. The father kept on telling him, you are a coward. See, now, you know, it's not like the modern Nairobi houses where you have a washroom inside. I want you to imagine a typical village home. So the father kept on telling this young man, you are a coward. That's why you can't step out and go pee in the toilet. This guy grew up. And I want you to imagine, who is your father? Your father is the most important man in your life. And your mother is the most important woman in your life. So if you're lucky to grow up with them as a child, what they say, you take it as Bible true. If my mother says, mimi ni ng'ombe, hata ukienda shule, uambie 1 + 1 is 2, such a simple mathematical problem, unaona ng'ombe katika kitabu. There are some of us, every time we would bring report forms home, what our parents would say, if we've not performed very well, Geoffrey, alikuwa anasema nini? Yani niliuza ng'ombe, nikapeleka ile ingine shule. Hurt people hurt others. Sad people make others sad. Demotivated people make others demotivated. This gentleman went on bedwetting until when he was in high school. Imagine bedwetting in high school, in a boys' school. Imagine having to remove your mattress, kuianika nje, in the full view of everyone. And you know how, at that age, our young children, the teenagers, they have not reached the cognition level of knowing that we are hurting this person. They make fun of him. They mock this person. So this guy was telling me the reason why he actually came in to seek help is because this anxiety had become so much that, so he got married. He married this lovely lady, and the anxiety would grip him during intimacy, during the act of intimacy. Remind your friend, we were told that it's okay to consummate our marriages. Yeah. Ambia mwenzako, it's okay to be intimate, by the way, it's okay. Mwambie it's okay. It's okay. Mwambie it's actually a very integral part of any relationship. Yeah. Na mwambie ukifikisha miaka 40, mwambie ukifikisha 40, your testosterone levels zinaanza kupungua by 1% every year. Lakini mwambie, you know, where I come from, they say, warugaga ni atofokaga. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you have lost it. So your testosterone is going to start significantly reducing by 1%, but you don't actually notice it. Lakini ukiamua kuingiza stress hapa, my brother, hiyo 1% inakuwa 10%. Inashuka hwa. And then when you're 40, if you marriage your age mate, or maybe if you have a younger wife, maybe by 5 years or so, the moment she hits 40, you know what happens? Their sexuality begins to come up starting the age of 40. That's why when you hear them even speaking English, wanafunga kizungu, they say life starts at 40. Bedani walikuwa wanasema 40, but at 40 they say life starts at 40 because they are more confident, my brother. So they are there even daring you. The feelings that were numbed in their 20s and their 30s, they come up starting their 40s. Anakuangalia anakuambia, Geoffrey, ile mioto ulikuwa nayo, bring it on, come baby come. Sasa hiyo bro haujipigi kwa sababu stress imefanya nini? Zimekusonga. So zikiingia huku, Hapo ndio unagundua ya kwamba the most significant sexual organ is not this one here, it is here. Ukipoteza network hapa, haushiki Geoffrey, haushiki. So this gentleman, because of the trauma of growing up with a father who pushed him too much, he would find himself during the, and then bendera inashuka unceremoniously. When they were starting the journey, alikuwa ameahidi bibi, tunatoka university way tupitie Westlands tufike Kangemi. Lakini no sooner had they hiyo kamlima ya hapo Kempinski kupanda than. And if you ask any man, that is one of the greatest fears. The inability to perform excellently. Not just sexually, but in other areas. So he came. And we sat. And we were having these conversations. And we figured part of this is because of the trauma that he experienced. And I want us to read this statement. What does it say? If you never heal from what hurt you, you will bleed on people who did not cut you. And most of us, we were hurt, but we've not done anything to heal. And let me tell you why we have not done anything to heal. I like what the magistrate said before he left. No, it's actually our brother who was saying that the wife of the deputy president is going around trying to intercede for the boy child. But where did our confusion start? Our confusion started here. When we are young, are we human beings? Is a man human? There have been conversations going around asking whether men have feelings. Do men have feelings? Do men have emotions? Which are some of the emotions that men have? They cry. Men get angry, isn't it? And it's okay to get angry, right? Men feel hurt, and it's okay to be hurt. But let me ask you, the same parents, whenever you would be caught, ukavunja kioo ya nyumba yenu, because you are a man, you are a boy, ukavunja vikombe. Every time you misbehave, you're punished, isn't it? When you're punished, which are some of the punishment modules that would be applied on us? Corporal punishment was major during those days. Unachapwa. Ukichapwa unahisi uchungu, isn't it? As a child, don't think like a man now, think like a child. As a child, what is the obvious thing to do when you're beaten and you feel pain? What is the obvious thing to do? To cry and wail, isn't it? And if you're a boy, you actually exaggerate. You cry. But what were you told every time you would cry? What were you told? What were you told? Huh? Why are you crying like a woman? And you're beaten some more for crying like a woman. And then if you do not cry, is another crime. Unaambiwa umekuwa kichwa ngumu, you don't even feel pain. Unaongezewa. So you're beaten for crying and you're beaten for not crying. So the question is, what are you exactly supposed to do? Exactly. So what do you do? That is where our confusion started. Because we don't know what to do. So what do I do when I am feeling overwhelmed? So we resorted to bottling up our feelings and our emotions. And there's something that happens when you bottle up. Because some things are not meant to be kept here, but we keep them. When we keep them here, we become easily triggered. We become angry. And sometimes even our own spouses, our wives and our beloved wives, they use that against us. By the way, one final statistic that I need to share with you. If you're a married man living in Kenya, raise your hand. I am married to Esther. Married to Esther. The statistics are said, if you're a married man, and please, the people who are not married, please use your bro. Or pambana na hali yako bro. Or. But if you're a married man living in Kenya, the current Kenya, the most recent statistics are saying, if we do not change the way we deal with the things we put here and here, we may die. Na sisemi you will, Reverend, please. Sijasema you will. Meaning if you change, we may not die. But the statistics are saying if we do not change the way we deal with the things that we put here and here, we may die before our time. And then, our dear wives, listen to this. Our dear wives are likely going to outlive us. Outliving here means living after you for between 25 to 35 years. Bro, Geoffrey, unaenda, unakanyanga kubwa kubwa, and if you make a mistake of dying young, I promise you, the chairman of your funeral planning committee will take over from where you stopped. God forbid. Thank you, Rev. But there is a hope if we change. The first picture was saying sometimes you need to look at life from a what? Different perspective. I'm in a group where they were saying, it is something has to kill a man. Something. Yeah, something. The studies are saying a man is likely going to die because of drunken driving. Men are likely going to die because of irresponsible sexual behavior. Men are likely going to die because of indulging and engaging in fights. Men are likely going to die because of debts, the burden of debt. Men are likely going to die because of the burden of masculinity. And what has taken us here is now what we are calling the cave mentality. Because when we were not shown how to express, we resorted to cave mentality. The cave mentality where you bottle up. Nyumbani si kuzuli, but you're not telling anyone. A doctor friend of mine who has been in the medical practice for 60 years told me that he has observed, Reverend, a very interesting trend. The few men who are lucky to get to the 80s, the few of us who get it to the 80s, old age is characterized by ill health, right? There's a likelihood that you will start experiencing ill health. So he noticed a very interesting trend. When the men in their sunset years are going to the hospital, they go alone, peke yao, without anyone. If they are very lucky, maybe with one of the sons. And if they are very, very fortunate, with the sons that they raised. But a significant majority, they go to the hospital alone. Wacha mama agojeke. Esther wako. Na mase wako. The daughter who is married in Kisumu, even the one who lives in Qatar, they take leave. And they fly here like no one's business. Because mama is a Noel. And they camp in the hospital. They even draw a timetable. And because she's being attended to in Nairobi hospital, she can't travel to Siaya. So she's going to live with one of the daughters in Nairobi, recuperating. Please tell the man next to you, my brother, no one is coming to save you. No one. No one. And I agree with the magistrate 101%. Please, you have some money in your account? Please treat yourself. My brother, kama haujanunua kakiatu this Christmas, please buy yourself a nice pair of shoes this Christmas. It's okay. It's okay. As you figure out how you're going to pay school fees for next year, please buy yourself a nice shirt. Because something is going to happen when you come on Sunday in that nice shirt. Reverend is going to notice. He will tell you your looks had made you feel like you're not good in. I can't remember exactly, but a few weeks ago. So I went to this forum. I was speaking in this forum, and I shared the same statistics I've shared with you. And the chief, the area chief, stood up and said, "Hey, Joseph. Joseph is like, ulikuwa umefanya mahesabu kabisa. Because what you're saying is true." And he told me, there's a 2,000 that the Ruto administration gives to senior citizens over 70 years, right? So this chief was telling me that, and he was talking about where he is in Ngong, and he was telling me the fund should be converted iitwe fund ya wamama, iache kuitwa fund ya wazee. You get what I mean? Iitwe, when you say wazee, we are talking about both men and women, old men and women. But he was saying the only people who go to access the fund are old women. Right? Why? Number one, because we don't have so many men who are getting to the sunset years because of the same things we are talking about. The burden of masculinity. Number two, the few who are there, the few who are there, the ego can't allow them. Hauna kitu bro, but the ego can't allow you to go and queue and be given 2,000. Kwa sababu, hiyo ni, aibu dogo dogo. Hiyo ni umama. As they say. So the ego aspect comes in. And we are going to talk about that briefly before we break for lunch. So this is what I want to say. Take me back there. That you need to ask yourself, thank you, my socialization, are there traumas that I did experience that are blocking me from becoming the version that I should be? And I keep on telling men everywhere I go to see them that it's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to remain not okay. The cave mentality is making our teenage boys sink into depression. Because when they become teenagers, your teenage son will get attracted to a crush, a beautiful girl. It's okay to get attracted to a girl. And then, siku moja atawachwa na huyu msichana. Kama ushaiwachwa, you know it hurts. Inauma, isn't it? And especially when you see your woman moving on swiftly with another person as if nothing happened. Our young people talk about kutuma fare. Unatuma fare, inakuliwa. I saw a meme on social media where they are saying, ati siku hizi tumechanuka, ati ukituma fare, akifika, the first thing you do, unaguza masikio. Ukisikia masikio ni baridi, ujua alitumia pikipiki. Hakuja na Uber, muitisha hiyo pesa ya Uber ulituma. Wengine wanasema, unamwambia tumia yako, nikurudishie ukifanya nini? Kifika, tumechanuka. But what happens? What happens? When he's heartbroken, he won't go and talk to the men, the fellow boys. And if he makes a mistake of talking to them, wanamwambia aje, wanamchekelea, wanamwambia, bro, ukiwachwa, achika, kanyanga, kubwa kubwa. Tembeza, kiatu. Afu wanamwambia, oga rudi soko. Is it that easy? Is it easy to kuoga kurudi soko? So what this young man is not telling you is that he feels like his feelings and emotions are being trivialized. And I saw a father yesterday talk about how they lost their son to suicide one evening. He just walked out of the house. The next thing he knew is that Alfred is not in the house. And he panicked. Akachukua torch, akaenda nje, and then he saw this gentleman standing and wondered, kwani, how tall is Alfred today? Because it was in the dark. But now what had happened is that Alfred was suspended on the air. He had hanged himself, and he was dead and gone. The cave mentality behavior is not helping us. Last year but one, I lost a friend of mine who was working for KDF. This gentleman was a senior guy in the ranks, and he had a medical cover that would even have allowed him to go for medication out of the country. Every single day, whenever I would see this gentleman, I used to tell him, I want to look like you when I hit 60 years. Because he was looking very fit. Very disciplined in terms of working out, a very picky eater. But he kept on ignoring some persistent pain that he felt inside here. He would run and the pain would come, and he kept on ignoring. One day, after one of the morning runs, he comes home and he was taken to hospital because the pain persisted. And the moment he landed in hospital, it was emergency surgery. Guess what? A 3-kilogram tumor was removed from his tummy. What he kept on ignoring was a tumor that was growing inside him. Unfortunately, he never left the hospital. He died. We have taken masculinity too far, whereby we don't even want to go and seek medical support. Na tukienda hospitali kama wanaume, we are telling the doctor how exactly he is going to treat us. Daktari, umenipea madawa mingi sana. Hizi taisha lini? We just need to love ourselves a bit more. And this is going to come from the realization that no one is coming to save you. When you were doing your group work, we were having a conversation with the magistrate, and I was telling him how most of us, especially fathers who live and work in Nairobi, and by the way, another statistic in Isama, fathers who live and work in Nairobi, in the areas around Nairobi, you're likely going to spend only 7 minutes on average every day with your children. If you work and you live in Nairobi, you're likely going to spend only 7 minutes every day with your children. 7 minutes every day. And someone was asking, Reverend, will the 7 minutes be enough to inculcate even values in your son or in your daughter? Possibly not. One of the reasons then why our children are not present for us when we are older, because we normalized being unavailable. It started with us. Because you're going to notice something. Our socialization, Geoffrey, has made us believe this, that you become significant when you are working and you have money. We are wired for significance. You know that, isn't it? Men are wired for significance. But women are relational. That's why they beat us. Because they meet, they relate, and they talk about us and the stress we are giving them. And there's a way women laugh when they are together. How do they laugh? Wanasalimiana hivyo, high five. Ukiona kwanza wamecheka hivyo, ujue hata kama mlikuwa mmefanyana nini nyumbani, akikuja jioni, kistress kimoja kimefanya nini? Kimeenda. But we still have ours. And so we were having this conversation with the magistrate, and we were saying, some of us, what do? You leave home early in the morning, you go to work, haujakula kitu, Nasisemi fasting ni mbaya. Fasting is okay. But you cannot fast entirely in your entire life, isn't it? Sometimes when you're doing hard work, especially work that is requiring you to think, you need to feed this body. Because there's a physical dimension. The physical dimension cannot be maintained by prayers, cannot be maintained by water only. You have to feed it. What do? Sisi wanaume. Especially now that the kids are at home. They are at home, they are on holiday. There's a budget for them. There's food, there's everything. But some of us, you'll go an entire day, hautakula. And if you happen to eat, ni chai na ndazi. Ama chai na chapati. Ngano. In recent surveys are saying, if there's anything you need to diss ngano, wheat. That's a conversation for another day. So you take tea na chapati, alafu the good father you are, ukienda home nyumbani jioni, because you are a good father, unapitia Naivas hapa, because you left children at home, unawanunulia an apple, unawanunulia crisps, unawanunulia yogurt na maziwa. Na wameshinda nyumbani wakikula. You who has not eaten, you can't even spend on you know. But you're going to spend on others who are at home na kuna chakula. Hizi crisps by the way unaenda unaeka unaona hata hawana hanja nazo, they are going to eat them the following day. And you feel bad that they are not eating them immediately. Imagine. The burden of masculinity. We were raised to believe that we only become significant when we have money, when we are working. That's why during the COVID-19 pandemic, what went? The first thing that was first to go was our jobs and our businesses. So when the jobs and the businesses go, what goes? Money. Research has consistently shown the three things, because of socialization, the three things that make a man feel significant are money, work, money, and sex. So what happened during COVID, Reverend? Especially for those brothers below 40. Kazi ikaenda, pesa ikaenda. Kabla bibi aende, there's something that was told we must do. Cessation of movement. You cannot go anywhere. So even if you had a job to report to, you will be working from home. And there are so many of us who are using our jobs as escapes. You want to use work to run away from the trauma in the house. Sasa, huwezi enda anywhere. You are here, your wife is here, your children are here. And you're not sure when COVID is going to end. Wale ambao wanaenda kanisa kutoa stress kanisani, there's no church. Those who go to the gym to release their stresses, there's no gym. Those who take one for the road, the bars are crossed. Those who have mistresses in Mombasa, unaenda na nini? Those who go talk to their mothers, your mother is in Siaya. You can't go. People felt trapped. So many people sank into a depression. Because the things that make them feel significant were taken away from them. One of the things I consistently tell myself, Geoffrey, if I pay school fees for my children, hata kama sina pesa kwa account, I tell myself I am man enough. Because I'm not defined by the money that I have. Because not having today does not mean I'll not have money tomorrow. If you have paid school fees for your children, hata kama hakuna hela kwa account, you are more important than you think, my brother. And not having today does not mean that you can't have tomorrow. But the problem is this. We were raised, part of our socialization, we were socialized to be very, very competitive. You remember when you were a young boy, what would happen? And this competition sometimes comes even in the toys that we buy our children. If you have a son or if you have a young boy, what are you likely going to buy them as toys? A toy gun? Mm-hmm. What else? A toy car? Uh-huh. And it is said that every man, as long as you can function from an early age, even if you are 3 or 2, every man has a dream of owning a car. A 2-year-old and a 70-year-old, kama hana gari. So when you are 30, 40 na hauna kagari, and your son tells you to go to the supermarket and buy him a toy car, subconsciously, as you walk into the supermarket, you actually feel like you're buying a real car. You actually get excited. And when you come home in the house, when you come in the evening, you tell your son to sit on that side, Geoffrey, and then you're on this side, alafu mnaanza kurushiana haka kagari. Na tukiangalia sana, si kijana wako anakaa nayo sana, ni wewe Geoffrey. Narusha haka kagari because subconsciously you feel like you're driving a real car because you have a dream of owning a car. Na si kudrive tu, unafanya ile masauti. Mpaka your son on the other side anaanza kufanya nini? Kulia. And you told us you are buying for your son. Your subconscious is yearning to drive that car. There's something those toys do to us. What do? They make us become wired a certain way. If I have a toy gun and you have a toy gun, we live in the same estate. Tukikutana hapa nje, bro, hata hakuna salamu. What do? We start shooting each other. It is a battle of significance. Who shoots who? If I have a bicycle and you have a bicycle, tukutane hapa nje rev, we live in the same estate. Hakuna kusalimiana. We race. Who beats who? If I have a football, na nyinyi hamna, na tunaishi estate moja, mimi ndio kusema. Nitawaita wote nje, niwapangishe laini, then I divide you into 2 teams. And then I declare I'm the goalkeeper. And then, when we get to the field, ni kupiga mboli. And then what do? It is a question of which team wins against which team. And that's why we grow up with that mentality. Significance. What makes a man significant? And that's why we are competing. You will see a father and a son. They are driving through traffic. Alafu wapitwe na kagari. Wataangaliana hivi. They communicate. Ai, hii ni gari gani inatupita? And then instinctively what's going to happen? Huyu mbaba atakanyanga mafuta. Na watapita hata kagari. And then once they are done, what will they do? Wataangaliana and they high five each other. We did it. Sometimes we take life like a conquest. He has done that enough times. I have also caught myself doing that. And then I ask myself, Joseph, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? The driver who you are competing with does not even know you. Yeah. And that's why when you look at even the way we interact with the EPL, English Premier League, we are wired to things that are significant, the things that make us feel significant. When your team is winning, you feel significant. If you sit in a team, in a group of men, football fanatics, when they're talking about football, what do they say? Ati sisi tuliwapiga. Wewe na nani? You know, you want to ask him, wewe na nani? The guy who is saying tuliwapiga maybe has never even played football even in high school. But because the team he supports is winning, he is associating himself with that win. Associating. Socialize differently. So what happened? First of all, when they are punished and they are beaten the way we were, it's okay for them to cry. And especially if they are named after the mother of the father. What do? We call them mom. Nina kusumbua. We bring them here, we comfort them, and we console them. The toys we buy them, what do we buy them? Barbie dolls. What do we buy them? Teddy bears. What do we buy them? Vitu za kupika na za kujipondoa. So you see them, you have a 2-year-old, but they are talking to their Barbie dolls. Weka hapo, ukule, ushibe. They are telling them what they see the mothers doing. They have started conversing and talking at an early age. That's why statistics have confirmed that before one day comes to an end, Reverend, a normal woman kama yule wako, before a day comes to an end, they will use 25,000 words. Na zikikataa kuisha, anamalizia na wimbo. Na kama mmekosana, iyo wimbo will be about you. Kwanza kama ni wakwaya, pole sana. You will hear her sing, vumilia roho yangu. Kama mmevurugana, you hear her saying, vumilia roho yangu, majaribu ni kama moto yanayochoma roho yangu, lakini Bwana naomba unisaidie, kwa sababu usiponisaidia nyuna nojurage modu. You know, she forgets that she had a grudge with you. That talking, that singing is very therapeutic. They talk to them, they hug them. They talk to their teddy bears, they hug them, they sleep with them. And sometimes, the way they hug them, they think is the way you will hug them when you marry them. But you're not taught how to hug them. Even though some of these things don't require lessons. But if you're hugging them the way you are hugging the bicycle and the gun. So they were expecting you to hug them the way they were hugging the teddy bears. When you look at the things that women watch, they are drawn to watching programs that have relationships in them. They like watching Mexican soaps. And in every Mexican soap, there's a very handsome guy called Alejandro and a beautiful girl called Camila. Whereby you have zero interest in them. Once in a while, Alejandro anainua Camila hivi, Geoffrey anamzungusha. Mumama wako anaangalia TV hivi, wengine imekuangalia hivi, anashindwa. Huyu Geoffrey ataniinua lini? When will he ever do this? Geoffrey, you never saw your father lifting your mother. The closest you saw your father lifting your mother was through prayers. Anamuinua na maombi. And your wife is there expecting you to do exactly. Here you're wondering, ni bills nitalipa? Ma ni kumuinua? Na mwingine unajiuliza hata nikimuinua nitamuweza kweli? Yeah. Mali yako amekula. And this brings a lot of misunderstanding and crisis. And that's why Michelle was insisting, knowing who you are. When you know who you are, you also get to understand who she is as a person. I want to bring this to a close because this can't end here. What happens when you do not become aware of who you are is that you abandon the things that make you. Every human being has dimensions that make you. You're physical. That's why you grow old. That's why you feed your body. You are emotional. That's why you feel. And it's okay to feel. You are psychological. That's why you get stressed. Please ask the person next to you, what makes you stressed? What makes you stressed? What stresses you? What triggers your stress? Of course, money. Fuel prices, right? Mm-hmm. You are vocational. Vocational means when as you grow up, you identify a specific line, maybe of work or business. Your career is what we call the vocational aspect of you. And then you are also social. That's why at one point you have friends that you hang out with and you go out with. And you're also mental. That's why every now and then you think about things. But unfortunately, most of the time, our mentor gets us to places where we don't want to be. When we think irrationally. And then we are spiritual. That's why actually what has brought us here together is because first of all we are brothers by the virtue of worshiping in the same church. The spiritual part of you is the one that makes you say a prayer in the morning. That's where you have a Bible in your phone. That's where you listen to music in your car as you come to work or as you go to your different areas. And then you're also sexual. From the onset of puberty, what happens is the body starts receiving what you call the testosterone hormone, which makes us have the urge to want to be intimate with our spouses. And at some specific age, we look for a partner, we settle down with them, we consummate our marriage, and we continue enjoying the gift of sex. But here is the thing. Look at that graph very, very carefully. Look at that picture very carefully. What happens, Reverend, is that when one dimension suffers, all the other dimensions are going to suffer. Can I give you an example? Let's start from the vocational. If you have stress at work that you have not been able to deal with, if your business is going down and you don't figure out how to deal with it, what's going to happen, my friend? The vocational is going to affect the psychology. You'll feel like you want to break. And what's going to happen? Physically, do you know there is a way stress manifests physically? Unaisikia mpaka the muscles are tense, isn't it? Even if you used to wake up in the morning and maybe do a run or even walk, you feel you don't have energy. There's a way stress manifests physically. So what's going to happen eventually? Sexually, kutaenda nini? 11 p.m. in the evening. Wakati wa mechi. Mama anajaribu kutafuta network, haipatikani. Inakuja inaenda, inakuja inaenda. Alafu unaanza kuvurugana kwa sababu alikuwa anakujua vile ulikuwa unalima ukiwa in your 20s. Your reputation is known in that house and she can't understand. That's where now accusations start flying in. You must be seeing another person. Yeah. Because also women have this mentality, a stereotype that that has been fed to them, that men are ever ready. Is it true we are ever ready? Is it true we are ever ready? In the 20s you can say yes. But we actually have people in this era of stress and mental health. Reverend, we have men in their 20s who are popping the blue pill. Believe it or not. Yeah. Stress levels imekutusonga. The men who are ever ready are no longer ever ready. But your wife is stuck to that mentality. So she's wondering, Geoffrey, what is happening? What she doesn't know is that this trouble emanated from your job. Spiritually, ukiitwa mkutano ya kama, you don't want to come and meet other men because you're even feeling inferior. You're feeling like you're not good enough. Your walk with God is being challenged. And then eventually, mentally, you start hating yourself. At the end of the day, you start believing and feeling like you're not good enough. My brothers in the Lord, I cannot finish this today. Let me talk about this and then we go for lunch. Tutapangana hapo baadaye. Now, because of the crisis that we are facing, please study what is going on here. Because of the crisis we are facing, the United Nations has this tendency where they take demographics. Demographics ni numbers za watu who are there globally. So the first quarter of 2023 ilikuwa inakaa hivi. Come with me. So the first quarter of 2023. So please note, these numbers may have changed. Sijashika the other quarters. This is now the first quarter. This is what the statistics are saying. That on planet Earth, as per the first quarter of 2023, we have 7.8 billion on the planet. And the report shows that of the 7.8 billion, 5.6 billion are women. So we only have 2.2 billion men on planet Earth. Whoever was writing this was encouraging the women. If you have a man, na unaona huyu mwanaume kuna mahali mnapelekana, please shikilia huyu mbaba. kwa sababu si kuzuri. And every time I'm sharing with women in their forum, I tell them, if you have a man in your life, and this man could be a father, this man could be a husband, this man could be a brother, this man could be a son, please take care of this person. It's not easy being a man. And I'm sure you can reckon, isn't it? It's not. So the study is saying, from the 2.2 billion men available, 1 billion are already married. So we are part of this. Those of us who are here, majority. Then, 130 million are in prison. 130 million men are in prison. And a specific number of them, they have gone to those prisons mainly because of maybe some things they did not even do. A story for another day. 70 million men are mentally ill. And a part of this is because of the burden of masculinity, not being able to process. So, the women who are being told, you only have 1 billion men available that you can attach yourself to. But again, from the 1 billion men available for marriage, 50% are jobless. 3% are gay. 5% are Catholic priests. How are we? Then 10% are your relatives. You're not going to marry your relatives. So, and then 32% are above 66 years. Oni wale wanaita ni wababas. It's a crisis. Now, I want to sum up by showing you these images of what happens to you. This gentleman you see on your screen, the sister is my churchmate. The sister is a member of my cell group called Jerusalem Cell Group. This gentleman was working for PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers. This information is in the public domain. What happens to you as a man when the burden of masculinity becomes too much on you and you don't have an outlet? And this is a very good outlet. Coming together and communing together. Do not underestimate the power of fellowship. But again, the way we were socialized, we were not taught how to relate. That's why wanaume tunaweza kaa pamoja, like we can go for, tunaweza enda rorashio ya pasi hapa, tukutane na hawa marafiki zangu, and we will spend an entire 3 hours having conversations. Na tunaitana mkubwa, chairman, Kiogos. We will not even go to the nitty-gritties of wanting to know who is this Kiogos. Maybe I'm talking to a Kiogos who is depressed. And when you go home, your wife asks you, what color was Reverend's shirt? Mumeka naye the entire day, but you cannot say what color was Reverend's shirt. Our relationships are very transactional. That's why it's possible for a group of men to be hanging together over beer, lakini mmoja tu akifirisika. What happens? What happens? Tunakurusha nje. And we swiftly move on. Where I come from, they say, utiri modrume nyina warioge. Kuna mwanaume ni mama yako. So we assume and we move on. This gentleman got straight A's in campus. Those who know him, they say he was a very quiet person in school. Your personality can wire you in a certain way. It can make you deal with so much. A conversation for another day. So this guy, young, very young and bright, PricewaterhouseCoopers targets fresh graduates because they're going to give you the money, and they know you need the money. You need the money. But the moment you get in there, there's so much work. And if you don't have a balance, you're likely going to lose yourself. So long story short, this gentleman got a job. In a number of occasions, he was exuding mannerisms of a person who is getting depressed. the seniors asked him to go for leave. He went for leave. He came back. When he came back, on this fateful day, he was meant to have a meeting with a client. So he comes, and the client came, and it is not exactly known what happened between the time he was leaving his office to go to the office where he was meant to meet the client. What was known is that the next thing is that he jumped from the 13th floor of this building. You've seen this building in Westlands, the PwC building. He jumped from the 13th floor, and that is now him being rescued. The paramedics trying to give first aid, but unfortunately, the injuries were fatal. One man down, he died. That's a young wife. Do you think her life is going to stop? It's going to stop for a while. But then 1 year, 2 years later, it's going to move on. There was a post in Facebook that was showing a woman who posted the photo of the husband because he has died. And then 4 months later, she posted herself saying, I am ready to move on. Those who are interested can apply. Please remind your brother, no one is coming to save you, bro. No one. Today. Next. This guy, what cave mentality does to you. This guy, you must have seen or heard his story. It made headlines on Citizen TV. Pale Kirigiti, too much pressure led to this gentleman shooting his wife, and then eventually taking his own life. Just like that. These two gentlemen, different occasions, woke up, poisoned their children. The cave mentality makes you keep things here. These things change you. You're not ideally a bad person, but these things make you angry. They make you irritable. Have you ever looked at yourself when you're very stressed, Reverend? What happens? It is said that a human being is capable of having 2 sets of thoughts. The first set of thought is called rational straight thinking. The other one is called irrational crooked thinking. When you're angry, the irrational tells you, ukiongea pole pole, hautasikika. So what do? You raise your voice. That's the irrational telling you. The irrational tells you, nikifunga mlango pole pole, haitafungika. So what do? You bang. The irrational tells you, if I walk from the living room to the kitchen, nikitembea pole pole, the irrational tells you, hutafika. So what do? You walk like there is fire. Alafu umevaa slippers ama clocks, unagongwa hii kidole ndogo na meza. Nasikia kama imevunjika. Uchungu. When you're stressed, you're using, unatafuta simu yako na simu yako. Unaakisha torch ya simu yako kutafuta simu yako. And that time you're quarreling everyone in the house. Where is your phone? Yet you're using it. You're looking for a bunch of keys. Zenye umefanya nini? Meshika. That's what the cave mentality does to you. These gentlemen woke up, they poisoned their families, and then they ended up killing themselves. This young man woke up one morning and he wrote this on Facebook. I think my time on this world is over. I have been through enough, but I am done. For those who know me well, msikose kukam kunizika, iwapo mwili wangu utapatikana. Then he goes on to say, ukiwa na stress, hakuna kitu huwezi fanya, hata unajiambia rest in peace. Gerald went on and he told himself, rest in peace, brother. After writing this, Gerald hanged himself. He died. Do Christians get stressed? Do Christians get stressed? The gentleman on your screen was a son. Was a son of the pastor in the US. It's also in the public domain. This gentleman, the father before he died, told this man, I want you to be the one taking over the church and run the church. And in some videos that are available online, he is seen talking about his struggle with mental health, talking about it even to the congregation. And the death of the father did not help. It made it even worse. I personally lost my own father 12 years ago. It's going to be 13 years in January. And I am telling you, that was the most harrowing experience ever. I grew up in a home where I never experienced death. We never experienced death of a loved one. And if you grew up in such a setting, you can become arrogant and think that death belongs to others. It doesn't belong to you. And I remember I was still teaching in the university. He died. We went for the funeral, laid my father to rest. When I went back to university, I was given 2 weeks after my father's death. I was given a unit called Loss and Grief Counseling. I am teaching students who are supposed to become psychologists and psychiatrists how to help people who have gone through loss. 2 weeks after my father's loss. Some of us, we lose our loved ones, but because of the cave mentality, mwanaume ni kujikaza. Mwanaume ni nini? I was having a conversation with my male students in the university the other day. They were telling me, ati teacher, mwanaume ni kajasho, sisi hata hatuogi siku hizi, ndio wasichana wakisikia harufu ya jasho, wajue sisi ni hard working Kenyans. Kawaambia nyinyi, mtaoga. Ogeni. It's not supposed to be taken literally. So this gentleman, the elders noticed he is struggling, and they asked him to proceed for leave. 2 days before he came back from leave, he committed suicide. The news of his death broken to the church by his wife. So 3 young men will grow up without a father. Please tell the gentleman next to you, it's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to remain not okay. Patrick here, akashikana na msupa, akamlipia school fees. You can imagine the salary of a cop. But he took loans, educated that woman, and then after he was done, nyinyi ambao hutuma fare, please mjue siku moja kinaeza umana. Ikikuramba, tafadhali usiue, kwa sababu utaenda jela. So this guy, after paying for her diploma, degree and masters, Christine had the audacity to tell this gentleman that I don't think we are compatible anymore. You tell that to a cop, and a cop who is stressed, because first of all, he's a Kenyan, and the struggle he has gone through, he did not even think twice. Short-headed. The moment that happened, this was circulated in the socials, that a police officer identified as Patrick has shot Christine, or his wife Christine, and according to sources, he is currently on the run. He is dangerous, he is armed, and he is dangerous. And the last time he was seen, it was at Shianda Market. And the next photo you see is when Patrick was apprehended. Brothers and my brothers in the Lord, I want to say this. Uliza mwenzako, kwako kunakaa hivyo? Kwako kunakaa hivyo? Labda kwako hakukai hivyo, but maybe you grew up in such a home, right? If you grew up in such a home, there's a chance that maybe you may have carried some trauma. And some of this trauma probably has made you to be a very angry and bitter man. And maybe you have meted that violence on your children. I want you to know that you're not a bad person. Maybe you're just angry. And the way we have been socialized, we've been socialized to pursue significance. we are having is that we are coming to the tail end of our lives very lonely and alone. No relations at all. Because we were wired to believe that our our relationships are transactional. Some of us, the young men who are looking for suitors, are ending up in situations like this. Haujijui, kwa hivyo unalemewa. Unakaliwa square. Angalia umbaba. Because if you don't know who you are, then someone else is going to come and define who you are. If you don't have your own identity, someone will. This is what we do, my brothers. And we cannot do this if we are not feeding this man here. If you are not taking care of yourself, we can't be able to do this. We may end up damaging them the way we were damaged. This calls for us to consistently come to forums like these ones, because what we do is to pour. We pour from our cups every time. That's what men do. We pour to other people's cups. Ask your brother who is next to you, how do you refill your cup? Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. How do you refill your cup? How do you refill? And unfortunately, Sir Secretary, this church is supposed to be full to the brim, isn't it? But men could not come because they are out there chasing significance. Chasing the dollar. Anything that is meant to refill them so that they can go and chase the dollar with more awareness, they don't want. So what do we end up doing? We give and give and give and give until we become empty. Then eventually we succumb. This is what we do. We tear pieces of our garments so that our children will not go naked. We have budgeted for others for Christmas. What is your budget? What is your budget for Christmas? What's your budget for Christmas? Yet you have budgeted for every other person, everyone else. And I want you to make an observation when you go home for Christmas. How many old men are still surviving if you go to the village? Tell me. I was doing a head count of the old men in my village. The last one succumbed this year. He's a guy who used to play the drum. Kitambo Anglican Church kulikuwa na ile drum ya kupigwa hivi. He's the one who used to do that. That man has suffered with Alzheimer's disease for 10 years. Alikuwa anaanikwa nje, anaanikwa, anaanuliwa. Eventually he succumbed. My dad, I can even start counting. Kwetu, kuna kwa Bwana Goko alituacha 20 years ago. Bwana Kimani alienda. I was not even born. Kwetu nyumbani, my father went 13 years ago. Uko kwingine, kwa kina Kashuke, nilizaliwa nikakuta kaburi, imesementiwa. Up to now, it's still there. Mind you, I am over 40 now. That cemetery, that kaburi has been there. Uko kwingine kwa Joroge wa Mwangi alituacha. All those people I'm talking about, the women are there. All those women are there. Men gone. And I want you to make an observation this Christmas when you go home. The few fathers who are still alive, when the children congregate for Christmas, what happens? January ikifika wakitaka kwenda kurudi kwao Nairobi ama wherever they go, mubabas anapewa 1,000 hapo living room, kila mtu akiona. Shika. But the mother, what happens? She's pulled to the kitchen. The mother is pulled to the kitchen by the children. And then wanatoa. Anaachiwa kabahasha ya kitu 50,000. Hii ni ya kumpeleka first quarter of 2024. Zikiisha ni simu watapiga. My brothers in the Lord, even as you pay school fees for your children, please don't forget kujiwekea kakitu for your sunset years if God keeps you. Because my brothers in the Lord, it's one thing to be old. It's another thing to be old and broke. It's another thing to be old, broke, and sick. It's another thing
to be old, broke, sick, and lonely. Ambia mwenzako, changamka, jipange. No one is coming to save you. No one. No one. This is what you go through. You expose yourself, you get pneumonia, your children survive. How many fathers have you seen wakihojiwa kwa TV because of the floods? They're the ones who are shifting the children left, right, and center. You expose your children, you expose yourself, so that your sons cannot be rained on. I want to jump and come to this point. Unfortunately, the cave mentality does not make us address the issues that we are supposed to address. What do? We look for escapes. One of the escapes that has worked for us ni, kuna wengine wetu naona wakimeza mate, hoping, and kuna dispenser imewekwa hapa, lakini imewekwa maji. Yeah, too bad. But this, I'm not here to promote Tusker. This is supposed to signify the addictions that we get ourselves into as an escape. Escapes that look like they are manly, yet at the end of the day, they even compromise our health. Wengine tunaomba Mungu kufunguliwe baa kama hii hapo karibu na kwetu, kwa sababu hata ukiwa na stress, kuagiza ni shida. Hutaki kuongelesha mtu, unataka tu uende uketi chini, ufungulie kipimo yako, uketi, ukikusikia kukojoa, unakojoa tu kiwa hapo. You just rise up when you're going home. Our challenge. What do you see in that picture as I conclude? A dog, a bird, and a cliff. This becomes our story. In our pursuit of significance, we don't know when to stop. We don't know how to stop. And the only thing that stops us becomes death. So we end up like this. This guy called Dalai Lama was asked. He was asked by someone, what surprises you about humanity? And he said, what surprises me about humanity is this creature called man. Because, come with me, he says, because he will sacrifice his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recover his health. And then he's so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. He does not enjoy the present. He can't even come for Kama meetings because of the future. You know? The future that he's not even sure of. So what happens? So he's so anxious about the future, he does not enjoy the present. The result is, he lives as if he's never gonna die, and then dies having never really lived. Magistrate alisema nini? My brothers in the Lord, you have some money in the account. Tafadhali tumia kidogo. Buy yourself a suit. Buy yourself a nice pair of shoes. I went to a forum where I discovered those guys walikuwa wamejiachilia, hata hii wa Munyinyi, hii ya ndani hawataki kujinunulia. Hii wa Munyinyi. Na kuambia wengine wetu tukifaint kwa soko, ile mambo itaonekana. And we have money stashed in the account. If you faint in the market, the people giving you first aid would also faint. Because I used to see in school, mtu akifaint shule tulikuwa tuna lose an up, isn't it? Majamaa wengine walikuwa wanasema ati teacher, ati wanavaa hizo wa Munyinyi zikiwa na mashimo, lakini wanasema si mashimo, ati ni breather. Hiyo sehemu inahitaji hewa. Breather namna gani? Stop neglecting yourself. Because there's no way you're going to be a man of valor if you're neglecting yourself. This is a plan of God for each and every one of us. This is a plan of God. Unaona secretary wetu pale wakiwa na provost wametembeleana, Waliamua stress tutaweka nini? Kando. This is the plan of God. But how many of us are going to get here? But it's possible to get here. But we have to change what we put here and here. Look at life differently. I admire these men. When you look at them, they don't have a smartphone. Kama iko labda iko kwa mfuko. They don't have very expensive clothes, right? The trousers are just the normal, typical trousers. They don't have teeth, so they don't have a toothbrush. What for? They just gargle salty water. Na maisha inaendelea. But can you look at them? Their joy seems to be running from within. There must be something they have done right. Yeah. And maybe their women are like this. I don't know. I'm just saying, if the women are there. Maybe. Because when they choose to live right, even their women probably are going to toe the line. This is the plan of God. No secretary wetu pale. The plan of God is that we live. Yes, we hustle through this journey of masculinity, but we don't lose ourselves in it. And I want to close by some things that I wrote here that I want us to close with. Just a few pointers. Number one is that this is, no one is coming to save you. Get to action. Look for creative ways of solving the issues that you're dealing with. And like the fact that there was someone to help us address some of the contentious issues this morning pertaining succession. And thank you so much, Sek, for such a thoughtful interaction. The other thing as men is that we need to see how we can tame our ego. Taming our ego means that when you're stuck, please accept you are stuck and ask for help and support, because some of us, the issues we are going through, we can be supported if only we ask for support. But I also want to challenge us. If I ever come to you, Rev, and I tell you that I am struggling and I'm suffering and I'm going through this, and I ask you to keep this confidential, please keep it confidential. Because what is blocking most men from talking and expressing is when you tell someone, it becomes the vibe of the community and of the church. Shame dies when stories are told in safety. Let us be each other's safe space. Please ask the gentleman next to you, could you be my safe space? Hata kikiumana nyumbani naweza kukwambia kimeumana. Yeah. Be your gentleman's, your brother's safe space. The other thing is that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to remain not okay. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be stressed, my brother. It's okay. But once you feel stressed, try to figure out what is stressing you. Because I'm promising you, if you're diligent enough to address those issues and not escape, you'll find a solution. Kama kuna shida nyumbani. And let me say this. Remember when you're talking about the different dimensions of a human being. The sexual, the physical, the emotional, isn't it? Physical issues can only be addressed physically. If you want to lose weight and go to Mombasa next week and have a beach body, iko na abs hapa. Physical problems can only be dealt with physically. Lazima uende gym ama uinue mawe. But you can't come and pray that God gives you a beach body and you don't do anything about it. Unaendelea kusakanya madodo na ugali. It's not going to happen. Nangano. Social issues, even after you pray in church and after you confide in your pastor, kama shida ni mazungumzo na maongeleshano kati yako na mke wako, that has to happen for a solution to be found. You can't pray those things away and not do anything. Prayer is important, but there's something beyond prayer. Go, sit down, tuongeleshane. What has the magistrate said? You can't pray that your family is not going to fight after your demise, after you go. I pray that, Father, my sons and my daughters are going to stay intact. For that sanctity to happen, you have to do something. Remind your friend, tumeambiwa tuandike will. Write your will. Pray about it. Ask God to guide you as you write that will, to give you grace and wisdom. You pray and act. Kama nyumbani, you feel like the intimacy is significantly getting affected, praying about it will help a bit, but it will end up with you going there 11 p.m. What is going to dictate whether you're going to speak in your mother tongue today 11 p.m. is how you address that issue. Tell your brother it's okay. It's possible to speak in your mother tongue today at 11 p.m. It's possible. It's possible. Very possible. So, brothers in the Lord, I want to close by saying this. Let me see whether there's a last one. There's no plenary. There's not going to be plenary. We will eat and go. The last thing is, the other thing is celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself. Have you ever watched a chicken? Shaiona kuku akitaga yai. Anafanyanga nini? Eh? What does a chicken do when it lays an egg? It tells the entire neighborhood. It's going to make some noise. It's going to flap its feathers. It's celebrating such a small thing like laying an egg. My brother, I know affirmation is very, very important to us men. It feels good when our spouses and our children affirm us. But most of the time it does not happen. Because what? Some of our women grew up in homes where affirmation was not present. And please understand, you cannot give what you do not have. Hata ukiona mumama is not affirming you, my brother, celebrate yourself. Celebrate your wins. Carry on with your vision. Because you realize that you're the only one who believes in your vision. Maybe there's no one else who believes in your vision. Please choose yourself. It's not wrong to choose yourself, my brothers. Unaweza shinda kwako, ukienda Geshagi, those of us who go to the village. Ukute mlango ya kwenda kwa hiyo nyumba ya kuku imevunjika. And you spend the entire day fixing it. And then your wife comes and asks you, yani, Geoffrey, hapa ndio umeshida the entire day. And you're expecting her to affirm you. What do you do in such a case? My brother, be your own cheerleader. The last thing. Some of us who die at 40, but we are going to be buried at 70. Have a cause that you believe in. I keep on saying, challenge yourself. Every day, have a physical win. These days, you are being advised a lot. If you can't run, walk. More than 50% of the nerves are below your belt. That's why walking is a very effective way of exercising. If you can actually be able to walk 30 minutes every day, that is sufficient exercise. If you're able to push it harder, if you're able to run, personally, I enjoy running. Every Sunday morning, I will run 15 kilometers in 1 hour, 7 minutes. 15 kilometers. That is how I open head. I'm not going to tell you to run because maybe it's not going to work for you. Have a physical win. Stay active. Another thing, have a mental win. Try to read. In this era of social media, most of us are not reading. We are just scrolling mindlessly. Sometimes these phones, before you even tell your partner good morning, before you even confirm you can talk, you are on social media, and you don't even know whether you lost your speech at night. And you have a chance to tell your partner good morning and confirm that you can still talk. Before you go here and Engage. Read a book. Yeah. Stay active. Revive your relationship. Pay attention to sex and intimacy. Sex has been recommended as a very significant tranquilizer, stress manager. So if you have a partner who you can be intimate with, vibe her nicely in the course of the day, such that when you go home in the evening, it is kuna mechi. And you even heard from the magistrate, a marriage can't be recognized where there is no consummation. And consummation is not a one-stop thing. It's a continuous thing. Communication, connection, and intimacy. Revive those things. Because my brothers, balance is the key. Even as we chase significance, let us not forget ourselves. I want to close by this. Do not cry over the past, my brothers in the Lord, because it's gone. Don't stress about the future. It has not arrived. Live in the present and make it beautiful. Tell your friend who is next to you, you only live once. And that once is enough if you live well. Sikiza kwanza, nataka umwambie yote. That you only live once. And that once is enough if you live well. Then ask him this $1 million question. Are you living well? Haya, mwambie sasa. You only live once, and that once is enough if you live well. My question to you is, are you living well? This workshop today has not told you everything, but it has helped you to identify some of the things that you can do in order for you to live well. Organize your life. Yeah? Take yourself easy sometimes. It's never that serious. Are we clear? And then as you grow old, please create a network of people. They may not be many. They can even be 4. The moment I landed in St. Stephen's, Jogorod, I was invited by these guys to give was it a sermon during their mental health day? I knew from that day, we have become friends with your provost. And from that day, we became friends. And I can tell you, that friendship is going to last. Because what I do, when I find people who can add value in my life, I also make an effort to keep them in my life. If you're post 40, kama umetisha miaka 40, please palilia the relationships that you have that are functional, because your chances of making new friends are very minimal. And old age comes with a lot of loneliness. Old age comes with loneliness. So create a network of people. There may not be many people you can count on, people who can challenge you, people who can tell you, apa uko na utoto apa. You need to style up. People who can tell you, you need to write your will. People you can open up to. You remember this leper in the Bible who used to be carried around by his 4 friends. Were they 4? 4 friends. And I remember these friends heard that Jesus was anachapa maraound huko Kapernaum, sindio? So these guys, first of all, they told this person, we are tired of carrying you. We need such people. We need 4 crazy people who can carry you when you're alive. You don't need 6 people to carry you in your casket, because you will not have shortage of people to carry you in your funeral. You'll have ready volunteers to carry you. What you need are 4 crazy people who believe in you, who can support you, who can be there for you. People who can rise up and open the roof because they are tired of they are tired of carrying you around. So because they are tired, they are not abandoning you. They are pushing you to become a better person. People who challenge you. People who tell you, this business you've been singing about for so many years, it's time you started. Chukua hii 10,000 uongeze. Hii nyumba ya Geshagi you've been saying ati utajenga na hujaanza. Sisemi uende Geshagi. I'm just giving an example. Hii lori ya mawe tumekumwagia, enda uanze. You know, people who push you. So they got tired of this guy, and can you imagine? They carried him, and they came and found that the house is full, and they did not give up on this person. Can you imagine climbing on this roof, and trying to open so that you can lower the person? I do not even think Jesus waited for this leper to be lowered. Because of their faith, this person was healed and he was whole again. Please ask your friend, do you have four crazy guys in your life? 4 crazy guys? If you do, well and good. If you don't, please try to make use of them. Because you only live once, and that once is enough if you live well. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Wow. That was a mouthful. Thank you so much, Joseph, even for now making it clearer to us that indeed we need to be redefined. How many are 40 and above? Inweni tu mkono. Joseph, you are talking to these guys. Joseph.
The last thing I want to say, I want to talk to the people who are not married. Just in a statement. If you're not married, raise your hand. Because I can see young men who are not married. Let me close by saying, are you married, sir? I love your work. Thank you so much. Listen to me. And these men are going to tell you, the most important, if you choose marriage, if you decide to marry, like us, if you choose and decide to marry, please know. And some of us did not know this when we were choosing marriage. Marriage is going to be the most important decision that you will make. It's the most important decision because you may end up with a wife or a knife. I don't want you to end up with a knife. I want you to end up with a wife. So what do? Please, work on yourself. Package yourself. I keep on saying that there are some things we learned late, but we need to teach these things to our children early enough, right? And what I want you to understand is that if you don't have a spouse who supports you, your career will suffer. Consequently, all the other aspects of your life are going to suffer. These men are going to tell you, kama hakuna amani nyumbani, what happens? That tension and that stress is likely going to follow you in the office. True or false? Yeah? I mean, I keep on saying, you can actually tell someone who is fulfilled at home. You can tell. You can tell someone who is fulfilled by looking at their face. Yeah? You can tell someone who is getting conjugal rights. There's a way we walk with confidence. Kwanza tukipewa asubuhi, your morning glory. You can even fire your boss when you go to work in the morning. The level of the confidence, because you feel like you have conquered your home, and once you have conquered your home, you feel like you can conquer the 7th floor where you work, isn't it? But if you marry someone who is using sex as a weapon, we've experienced that, isn't it? Who is weaponizing sex and intimacy, who is demeaning you, who is making you feel like you're not good enough. If you marry a broken person, chances are they will break you. So fix yourself, my brothers. Marry right. Date right. Marry right. And thank you so much for coming, because this is not a waste. There are those of us who are in relationships, and we can say we are happy in our relationships, but it takes work. When you see 2 people who are married talking to each other and laughing and smiling, the work that has gone into doing that, my brother, usitake jua. Most of the girls out there, the only thing they can offer you is sex. If you take away sex from the relationships, wachanga, there's nothing that is going to be left. So my brothers, let me tell you something. Those breasts will sag one day. The breast will sag. Hii figa hii inakaa kama chupa ya Novinda, itaenda. Akizaa watoto wako, hii yote inaenda. Marry someone you can sit down with and discuss business ideas. Are we clear? Marry someone who can think. Marry someone who can help you to execute your dreams and aspirations. Marry someone who is going to give you peace. If you sense red flags, my brother, move on. Sisemi muache, but move on. Try to figure out. But also understand this. You may not succeed in changing someone. And the only way you can be able to attract a healed person is if you invest time to work on yourself. Work on yourself, heal you. When you heal, you attract a healed person. Because as I said, you attract who you are. If you're broken, you attract broken. If you're fixed and healed, you attract healed. And all the best. Unitia wedding. Sawa.
And now applause to the facilitator, Joseph Nginya. Media team, I would kindly ask that you project his name and telephone number. I think it was very deliberate for him to leave that telephone number. You can write that telephone number and you can be able to reach him if you need more of this. Thank you so much, Joseph, even for having time to come. I remember we talked with provosts, I think some 2 months ago, and I want to thank you for keeping your promise and coming. And I know these men are going not the same way they came, but they've gone knowing their position. What my take home is, I need to have those 4 friends, and that I will only live this life once. And then there are those 4 that you say it's very bad for me to be broke, sick, and lonely. That's a very bad combination. And I know there are some of us who are already actually heading to that direction. And I pray that this Manhood Redefined will be able to put a stop, and you'll be able to open up a new leaf. Thank you so much. Another round of applause to him. I will allow 3 burning plenary questions. I know he said he will not allow that, but this facilitation has left men burning. Watu wameuliza maswali wanasema ngai. Yeah, I can see 2 and mchungaji 3 here. So nani ako na mic? Saimo, peana hiyo mic huko. Only those 3. Those others, just write and give them to me. Since I have his contact, I will send them the questions, and then once he gives them to me, I'll be able to relay back to you. Peana hiyo microphone tafadhali. Anza huko nyuma. And then we gave out a survey. I want you to give us a feedback of what we did today and how we can be able to improve on this facilitation. This feedback will be important for us so that we can become very contextual and so that we can be able to reach you in your own level. So answer it in a candid way. Kama unataka kuchoma tu, hakuna shida, tutanyorosha. But I'm kindly asking that you answer that survey. And if you're done, give it to our Vice Secretary, Brother Samuel, and we'll be able to have them, and we'll be able to give you. So kindly ask your questions.
Thank you, brother. Now, my question,
Dennis, just a little. I would want you to give a summary of your question. Hapana patiana hadithi ingine. I'm only giving you a minute. Kuuliza swali, just a minute. Make a summary of it, kindly.
I have observed and especially in our church, whereby men go through a lot of problems, and especially if you have got a marital problem, and you go to a point whereby maybe you get divorced, ama you divorce your wife. And then ikija ni kwa kanisa because you are divorced, and probably you are serving in a certain position, unakuwa sidelined, and then pia unatengwa, kuna vile pia unarushwa nje. So there are some people who are going through that problem in our church. Na kuna wengine pia wanafunika hiyo kwa kuwa ni sababu ni viongozi wa kanisa, na pia kwa nyumbani they are going a lot of problems, you cover up. So unapata mwanaume is suffering in silent. What do we do about it?
Ask all of them so that you'll be able to answer them once. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My name is Sylvester. I'm a father of 3. Most probably sometimes as men, I've come to learn this and I would like to be corrected because I know I'm in the right place. Sometimes as men, maybe when you're young, something happened to you and you got a baby outside wedlock. The situation comes to, the same way he has just said, the situation comes to you're serving in the church, your past is following you, and sometimes it pains you because you're not dealing with it right. Why am I saying right? Because sometimes you don't, as men, most of the time, as a father or a man that is married, it's not easy for you to be told, congratulations, you have a firstborn, and upate your envelope. Sometimes inakalanga shortcut naenda kwa mama, so hata wewe unasikianga tu kulikuwa na wageni, lakini wewe ndio uliprovide for visitors. So my question comes to this. As a man that maybe you have a baby outside wedlock and now you're married, and the same thing you just said, you want to serve in church in level of maturity, of understanding your salvation and your age. What do you do about it when you have a passion of serving in a particular place in church?
Well, let me just, mine is, one is a comment, my take home, normalize going for therapy. Because I know there is stigma sometimes associated with therapy, and for me that's my take home. Then, you've done well actually talking about the many things that bog us down. But there is something I feel you need also to mention on, that maybe the younger ones we are going through, black tax. Black tax, it's a bone of contention. For Dennis, we had an Anglican clergy conference at Kabarak. I happened to be part of the small committee that sat as we looked about the issue of marriage and divorce, remarriage and divorce actually, because we have cases of divorce in the church. We cannot hide ourselves in the sand. We never quite came to a conclusion, but I believe that it got to the provincial level where some things need to be looked into. Because I want to say this, where we are, we may not have currently a way to tell you this is how to go about it. But I've seen in other churches where they have actually accepted and said, we have our Christians whose marriages went south, and they are still our Christians. So as much as they'll not give them leadership, they acknowledge they are there, they tend to their needs. Are we getting together? So here I'll not give an official standard and say this is what the church has said. But I would encourage us to be innovative. Because we are all leaders, isn't it? I know, Dennis, you're a leader. Because I've been to Emmanuel Bahati. I know you're a leader. At times, we may not even wait for the head shed to come and tell us what to do. It is okay sometimes to just try and get our own solutions. Because these problems are with us and we cannot wish them away. Hiyo ya kuwa na mtoto out of wedlock, it is in the past, si ndio? And if you bring it out properly, and you know, let me say it like this. I've seen issues in the church where a girl gets pregnant and people are talking. And why are they talking? So that mchungaji gets to hear, isn't it? How sometimes I've dealt with it is stand and say, I am aware. Because maybe the said person came and told me what exactly happened. When I stand and declare I am aware, hiyo kelele inafanya nini? Inaisha. Because hata wenye kuongea, walikuwa naongea mchungaji afanye nini? Asikie. Alright? So I think if it's handled in the right way, where you actually, because you cannot disown your child. You can't. You cannot. So it's just a matter of creating an environment where you bring people together and declare this is it. This happened. Huyu bado ni damu yangu. and life has to continue. Whether they feel they'll want to accept your service or not, you know, one, you've come clean between you and God, isn't it? You've also done the right thing because you've cleared the air, and nobody will use that to attack you. Because the worst thing that happens is that we use it to attack others. Hata ukimuona ako na mtoto. And you know, it's only that we are accusing one and we sin differently. Are you getting what I'm saying? Because dhambi yote ni sawa mbele ya Mungu. But because I have a child out of wedlock, and you're sinning differently, probably you're even struggling with alcoholism, mine is visible because it is a child. Yako umeweka kileo kwa bedroom, we do not see it. But you're also struggling. So what I would say is, you've dealt with it, you've brought it open so that it's not used against you, you've dealt it, you've given it to God, and you've created an enabling environment. Whoever now wants to carry it, it is up to them. You're okay, free, serve God where it is allowed. Amen.
Thank you so much. So I thank you for helping me, Pasi, answer part of that question. But I also want to make an observation. What my brother has said about. Have you even seen cases where the couple is in some conflict? And I remember one of those cases. I was in the middle of it. When you listen to the issues that are in there, you heard the magistrate talk about divorce. As long as it's going to be marriage, there will be divorce and separation. And the church has to embrace that reality, that people will marry, and there are some marriages that will have to go the separation way and the divorce way. In as much as Christians, we don't advocate and we do not support divorce, that does not mean that it's not going to happen. And that's a reality we have to embrace and live with. Because sometimes what we do is that as a church, we get caught in between, and we even force these people. It's a case. So this girl marries this guy, and in the 4th year of their marriage is when she actually got to know that this gentleman is gay. But not gay per se, bisexual. Meaning that he relates sexually with men and he relates sexually with women. And how this lady got to know about it was through their 4-year-old son. The son tells the mother, "Hey, Daddy these days is acting weird. Because even the way he's touching me, I am not comfortable." He had started preying on son. Unfortunately, the church, and I'm not condemning the church, without first of all listening, and it's important to perceive that you people listen. And not just listen to one side, listen to both sides. Before you declare that this marriage, because when you listen, and you have raised a very important point here, going for therapy. What is therapy? Therapy is seeking further support. Because maybe why you are in crisis in this relationship is because maybe you have unhealed trauma from the past. Yeah? There are so many examples I am thinking of I can give you, but I don't want to get into that because of time. This pilot guy, he was even in my office yesterday. He was raised, who is a teacher, was raised by a mother who was very modest and accommodating, and they are consistently crashing in the way they are raising their children. Now, if you're a pastor and you listen to the guy, so one point the guy became so angry and slapped the wife, and he repeated the same. He's not a violent person, but he hit her again. And the wife went reported in the police station, and he made it clear to the police that I am not reporting so that you arrest him. I am just reporting so that you tell him, you just summon him, call him, don't put him to, don't, usimweke kwa cell, but just make this clear. If he hits me again, it's not going to be the same. So anyway, they are in therapy trying to address that. The major things that are coming out is that they are raising their children different. There's a crash of the way they are raising their children, and the main motivation is that the normal, how this guy was raised, the normal, the father had rules, the father was strict, the father was forceful, is not what the wife experienced. But just because, I was telling her, just because your husband is trying to bring in new aspects of parenting that you never saw where you grew up, it doesn't mean that he's necessarily wrong. You just need to accommodate each other, agree on a middle ground, because you cannot argue that we are going to raise, these are two people who are level-headed people who are thinkers. They were raised in homes and they have gone to school. So you cannot say my way is the best and your way is not the best. So what do you need to do? You come up with your way. So you have to melt and fit in one pot and then say, this is going to be Geoffrey's way of raising children. At Geoffrey's home, this is what we do. But you can't keep on interfering, because what upsets him is that the wife will always come in and rescue the children. When the gentleman is saying something, the wife contradicts. Yeah? But they can't go for practice today. And this is a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. So he wonders, can they be able to speak for themselves? So what am I coming to? It's important for the church to get to understand that their stand, even what the magistrate said, the fact that you do not believe and advocate for divorce, it doesn't mean it's all going to happen. And in my diocese, we have even seen clergy who divorce. We have clergy in my diocese who have divorced, but they have not been excommunicated. We have evangelists who have divorced. Because what happens when you get to realize that you married wrong? Are you going to stay in a wrong relationship for the rest of your life? No. And we are saying you only live once. There are some things called irreconcilable differences. And as long as we live, as long as people marry and get married, that is going to be there. So what do? We are going to send these gentlemen, because these are the guys who sit in synod. These are the guys who make those policies. In my diocese, I remember in the last synod, there is this thing in the Anglican church where if we do the come we stay marriage, at some point, the wife can be a communicant, but the husband can't be a communicant. That move was moved by a clergy. Is it fair? Is it right? I mean, we consented, nikakanyanga sengenge, akapita. She consented kukupita. So kama ni kuanguka tulianguka pamoja. Why then allow the lady to be a communicant and the man is not? What is the rationale? And I remember that issue brought a lot of excitement in the synod. It's still being discussed. But I think what I can say is that we need to, one, normalize these conversations even in the church. In my diocese, I know we have tried a lot of this. We have what we call teaching Sundays during the service. In my church, every month we have a teaching Sunday where we have topical issues now like this one, succession, divorce and separation, marriage and family therapy, enrichment programs. Through those conversations, we will be pushing the agenda of helping the church understand, because as much as we learn from the church also needs to learn from us. Look at our pastor here. He has sat through here and he has learned a lot. Because he's not a tree of knowledge. I'm also not a tree of knowledge. I sat, I listened to the conversations and the deliberations that you had. So this is more likely going to come from the church, and they are here. He's here. When they go for the synod, they need to help the clergy and the people who sit there to understand, number one, that when divorce and separation happens, there's need for the church to not take sides. Get to understand what went on. And also understand that a church is not a museum for, people who are okay. It's actually a hospital for people who are sick, like people who are struggling with divorce and separation. And most importantly, what can the church do to help those marriages that are in conflict? Bring more enriching programs. I look forward to when the Kama department will now decide, because we have had this workshop, why don't we now send our women for the workshop, for them to hear what we had, and then culminate in another session where we are now coming in as families so that they can understand how different they are. So when she's expecting you kumuinua, ajue siku kata unakataanga kumuinua, ni vile tu mko different. Because even your responses when you're stressed are different. So I kind of feel like the church, this is a call now for the church. And it's good that you are here and the church leadership is here. It's a call for the church to listen to the cries. Just because I have divorced and separated, it doesn't mean that I'm less of a Christian. Yeah. And that issue is the social dimension of me, but it doesn't mean that I have lost my spirituality because I have. It might also mean that I realized I made a mistake and I need to fix this mistake, and maybe the only way I can fix this mistake is to end this marriage, because anything that is not good for your mental health, whether a relationship, whether a job, even a church that is not very good for your mental health, you need to rethink it, including now what he's talking about. Black tax. What is black tax? Black tax ni ile pesa unatuma nyumbani every now and then. Your father-in-law anakutumia simu ama anakupigia simu, anakuambia hakuna unga. And you want to wonder, before you married in this family, what were they eating? Sisemi usitume pesa. But what I'm trying to say is, we have a crop of people who are so hell-bent to spend money they don't have, to buy things they do not need, to impress people they don't even like. And I know some of us, if we are not careful and we don't change the way we do things, we are going to make the same mistakes that were made by the same people we are helping and supporting. On black tax, you need to understand this one thing. You are not Jesus Christ, and you cannot save everyone. Are we clear? As you help, think about yourself. Thinking about yourself does not make you selfish. But before you spend on others, even one of the rules in business, if you have your own business, what are you told? Pay yourself first. Have a budget. And then in your budget, ujieke 1,000 ama 5,000 ya kahawa, we spread vile utakuwa ukikunywa every month, na wapi utakuwa ukikunywa. Then, depending with the how much you earn, set aside what you can be able to afford to give to your relatives. And then try and see, last month nilisaidia huyu, sikusaidia huyu. And try as much as possible to stick to that. Because let me tell you something, if you do not mark your boundaries where finances are concerned, my brother, you'll spend and spend and spend. And there are some of us whose personality, we are rescuers. You rescue, you rescue, you rescue. You even take loans to rescue. At the end of the day, you don't even have an emergency fund that you have created. On black tax, apply boundaries. Please have a budget for that. Na ikiisha, try as much as possible to stick to that and try to be disciplined when it comes to that. Please note, you cannot save the entire world. And if something happens to you today and you die, those people who tell you they cannot survive without you, they will still survive. How they survive, it's about them and their boundaries. Thank you.